So Martin is a young adults pastor and associate pastor in Echo Church. The truth is this church is running because of all the execution, hard work behind the scenes. Pastor John does all things creativity, production, and worship. If you love what God is doing here, there's someone behind the scenes. Martina is one of our interns here, and she serves on kids every single week, and I get the opportunity of leading this church. But I wanted to dig particularly into the story of Pastor Karam because the reality is you see here the fruit, but there was a lot of years of spiritual sacrifice. We tend to see the fruit of an individual, and you see an amazing family by the grace of God like us where we love Jesus, but you don't see the years of spiritual sacrifice and the years of spiritual warfare. But more than anything, all the giants and the battles that were won behind the scenes in order to see us. We're not just a product of us rocking out of nowhere, but we had an amazing Father who was working, digging behind the scenes in order for us to be here. And like one of the most amazing things I did, that my dad got saved when I was 28. Wow. I started Echo Church when I was 26. Wow. This is a generational blessing in that his ceiling is my floor. Wow. You know, your father's spiritual ceiling is your spiritual floor. Wow. So generations get stronger. Generations go from glory to glory, and generations go from strength to strength. And I'm so keen for here in Echo Church to see the generations get stronger, to declare that masculinity isn't toxic, that God created men to act like men and lead like men and protect like men and provide like men and actually be strong and full of conviction and courageous. Because the devil is after demonizing, destructing masculinity. Amen. Martin, I wonder, what was the one thing that you learned from Cookie? I think it was before we get Cookie dig deeper. I wonder, what is the one thing for you, John and I, that we have seen our dad do that kind of made that faith caught and not just taught?
Man, for me, it was solitude with God. I learned how to be alone with God from a young age. Growing up, watching my dad always be alone with God. I mean, somehow in the middle of, his friends, pastor friends and everybody going out, somehow my dad found himself leaving all these hangouts and dinners and everything and was able to be alone with God all the time. I mean, every season we went through, when we moved from Egypt to Thailand, when we moved houses, every season that I found my dad in, he found time to be with God. So when I grew up and my friends, invited me to this birthday and this hangout and there, for me from a young age, it wasn't hard to say, no, I'm not coming because I need to be with God. It wasn't hard. I was really simple. Most young people, most of my friends, my old church struggled with the idea of how can I, miss out on a birthday, or how can I miss out on that party at school, or how can I miss out? But for me, I didn't mind saying no because I need to be with God, simply because my dad set that standard of being alone with God. So it was really solitude with God.
Yeah, for me, I remember every morning I'd wake up and I would see my dad on his knees in his bedroom for hours and hours praying for us, praying for my brothers. Even when we were far from God, even when we weren't in church, even when we were away from God, he just kept praying every single morning. And I just remember before he even looked at his phone, brushed his teeth, not a single morning where he doesn't, just the first thing he does is go on his knees and just pray.
Wow. Honestly, for me, the biggest lesson I learned, and one of the biggest things I'm so grateful for, is that my dad is not just leaving me practical financial inheritance, but more than anything, he's leaving me spiritual inheritance. Most parents spend all of their life trying to build and get the wealth and get the finances and get the stuff and get the car and get the property and get all these things and get the savings. Yet they fail to realize that the biggest gift you can ever give to your son is not practical, financial, wealth inheritance. It's spiritual inheritance. It's that spiritual inheritance that looks like faith. That spiritual inheritance that looks like faithfulness. That spiritual inheritance that looks like living for the purpose of God. That spiritual inheritance that looks like preaching the gospel in a country when it was illegal, where we were born in Egypt. That spiritual inheritance looks like baptizing people, even though he might go to jail.